Okay, so we're on to match 9 of the day. We're currently 8 and. Sorry, we're not 8 and 2, we're 6 and 2 coming into this, and we've been paired against Brian Kovold, who runs a podcast called. I think it's called the Eternal Glory podcast or something. I was pretty pooped at this point. It had been a long day. I don't really have the stamina to play 10 round events, I got to be honest. And I actually thought this was the last match of the day. And it turned out to be wrong. It turns out there was actually one more match. So 6 and 2. We're going to keep this hand. Our first hand was unplayable. This hand, on the other hand. So we have a couple of things that we can do here. So we can vamp for Lotus, cycle into Lotus with Street Wraith, draw Lotus, cast Necropotence. Or we could do more or less the same thing the following turn and try and draw a blue card for Force of Will. Now, the reason I'm kind of keener to do this now is there's a lot of things that could go wrong between now and then, and it could just open up us to something like a Spell Pierce or a Red Blast or something like that, and just blow us out even, just leave us even more depleted on resources than this will. So this loses to Force of Will and Mindbreak Trap, and that's about it. An opponent, unfortunately, has the Force of Will. And straight into a Strip Mine, no less, as well. We're drawing that Doomsday that we bottomed before. Classic MTGO. And there's now a Tarmogoyf on the board as well. So we're on a really short clock. We need to not only be able to resolve a Doomsday, but we need to win probably the turn it comes down because of the goof. So this is going to be a pretty tough situation for us to come out of. And I think that probably spells the end of the game. As opponent will attack us with a Tarmogoyf. We're now on 6, and yeah, there's just nothing. So maybe an Ancestral could have got us out of this, although it's unlikely. So in this matchup, we probably just want Flusterstorm. We're happy to stay on 15 lands for this, given we saw he's on Rug Xerox, or what appears to be Rug Xerox from what we've seen. And one of the things that Rug Xerox does is it abuses Wrenn and 6 with Wasteland and Strip Mine to take you off all your lands. So having an extra land in the deck is actually kind of beneficial there. We're cutting the Vamp just because, once again, it's a card disadvantage tutor. We don't want to Vamp, have whatever we Vamp for countered, and then be kind of, a couple of cards down. Instead, we just rather fight to push our spells through. And we can't keep this hand. We keep this one, and I make a little bit of an interesting decision here. I'm going to bottom the Doomsday. So the reason to bottom the Doomsday here is we actually have a combo in hand. And one that's, look, it's not as compact as the Doomsday, but we can't bottom both Consultation and Oracle. And we might actually find that the Oracle Consultation line is just going to be easier to cast. So we'll just lead on a Preordain. We'll take both the land and the Preordain here. So we'll take the land in case we get Wastelanded, and because we actually need 3 mana to get the Oracle Consultation combo off. And opponent now knows what's up. And we are getting Wastelanded, so we're being paid off for keeping that polluted delta there. I think we want to bottom. We might want the dig. Okay, and we've chosen not to. And strip mine, making it really hard for us to actually do anything at the moment. And Lotus is perfect, so we're going to put Lotus into play. If they want to fight over the Lotus, and they might because they know the contents of our hands, it's normally incorrect. But they've chosen not to. So we were going to protect our Lotus if they tried to fight for it, and then just try to go off next turn instead. And here we're going to get to try to Oracle Consultation with either Mystical Dispute or Flusterstorm backup, and they've just decided to let it go. So they'll probably snapshot a library so that they know what they're playing against. And I don't think we want to change anything. It's possible maybe we want a Mindbreak Trap, but I think a lot of the time Mindbreak Trap against Xerox decks can actually just become a brick a little bit too easily, and it just sits in your hand and doesn't do anything. We are going to snap this hand off. We have an Ancestral Recall, we have a Preordain, and we have a Mox Jet. And we have a Flusterstorm. So I think our best plan here is to probably just lead on a Preordain, try to find a second land. The Ancestral Recall is something that we're going to hold until we're confident it's moderately safe to do it, or we can try to protect it as it goes through. Necro is nice. We're now 1 card off casting the Necro. Oh, sorry, one black mana off casting the Necro. Opponent's Pyroblasting the Preordain, so they're obviously they're playing their Pyroblast fairly aggressively. That probably is correct in this kind of matchup, given our combo is actually black. And now they're going to get to see our hand. So we're really keen to draw like a Dark Ritual or a Lotus here. And instead we draw a Dig Through Time, which is not particularly helpful. And opponent's got a Wrenn and 6. They're managing to keep Pyroblast mana up at all times here to make it fairly clear that it's risky for us to try and cast Ancestral, and they're going to get to start drawing through a lot of... They're starting to get a real mana advantage via the Wrenn and 6. So they're just going to get to basically, play a land every turn, keep fetching, which will develop and thin for them. Thinning is generally fairly marginal in terms of value, according by my understanding, but I think there's very significant value when you can actually within a few turns pretty much pull the vast majority of lands out of your deck and start just drawing straight gas. Here I think we want to try to probably Mystical Dispute. We can't Flusterstorm the Ancestral yet. An opponent has their own Fluster, so that's a bit of a problem for us. They also haven't activated Ren and 6 yet. I assume that's because they want to try and find a wasteland and just start waste locking us. So we're now very far behind, unfortunately. I think this game could have been quite different with the draw of either Dark Ritual or even just a second land or a second blue source. Unfortunately, it's looking pretty dire for us, which happens. I feel like maybe we're just meant to DT for Lotus here. And just try and ram through the Necro. And if it gets forced, it gets forced. It's kind of our only... I think this is going to be like our only real window. And I don't think I like waiting there. The reason being this is going to happen. Mystic Sanctuary is going to rebuy the Ancestral, and now we're getting very far behind. Whereas previously, look, we probably weren't going to dodge a Force of Will given how many cards they've seen. But it's one of those things where you kind of just have to try and hope that, you just happen to get them with their pants down at an opportune time and just take advantage of that. The other thing that's about to happen very soon is Ren and 6 is going to ultimate. And when Ren and 6 ultimates, they are going to just be able to cast Ancestral over and over. And what that means is they also get to cast Ancestral and deck us in response to, us drawing into our Doomsday pile. Dark Faden's a problem. They'll probably just go ahead and steal our Mox here. So maybe it was better to try Necro with Flusterstorm backup than it was to try and fight and push through our Ancestral. fluster on fluster. So we now have to try and pull this off, and this is quite a difficult thing. So let's see what else they have in hand. So we've resolved our Flusterstorm correctly, I think. Okay, and this is pretty nice because now we can actually try and dig through time as well. And we've got to decide what's the most important cards in our bin. And I think with the Gush, we can afford to leave the Ancestral. Oh, so we can afford to get rid of the Ancestral. We did not want these cards. So if opponent has Time Walk here, I think we're more or less dead. Nas, it's a big problem for us. And this is kind of our last shot, so I guess we go like Dark Ritual. I don't know if we're meant to go Dark Ritual Necro or Dark Ritual Doomsday here. Dark Ritual Necro is kind of like how we can try to stay ahead on cards. Okay. But Dark Ritual Doomsday was probably going to give us our best chance to try and win there. Not that it ended up mattering, thanks to the mental misstep. And I'm pretty sure at this point that ultimating Ren and 6 to get the emblem and just use that to keep ahead, it's just going to be their absolute best way through this situation. They should have at least one land in hand. Okay, and I think this kind of has to be go time for us. It's already a bit too late. They just managed to dominate us in the early game, which is where we really needed to be getting a game plan online. And I think we just kind of we missed on lands for a lot of turns, and that's just proved to be really bad for us. Now we're just going to gush. This is a bit of a, once again, it's a Hail Mary. It's just hoping that they don't have any cards in hand and that they don't fight over the gush. Oh, sorry, that they don't have any lands in hand so that they can't retrace. But look, we're fairly certain we're dead. We just have to try. And from memory, here's where they just retrace the Ancestral. And unfortunately, that's game over. And so we pick up our third loss for the day.